What are the power requirements for data centers? How do they impact regions like the Middle East compared to the United States? And how can renewable energy and improved chip design contribute to energy efficiency and sustainability?
There are two schools. One of them consider the power requirement as part of the stack, and others don't. But regardless of this, how do you see the power requirement right now, especially when we look at all these data centers and the huge amount of power they consume? How important is that? And where do you see the Middle East when it comes to the power generation capability?
The Middle East have an advantage, especially in the GCC. Um, uh, countries like United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Qatar, they have an advantage because energy is their strength. It's not something they look at it as we have to think about it when we are having our data centers. So it's not urgent, it's not pressing as you see it in other countries. The issue about the power is multiple levels. Number one is chips has to be better, which means the design of the chips from NVIDIA or AMD or Intel or Chinese, chips have to be better in consuming power. I'm following NVIDIA and their products one after the other when you're talking about Blackwell, Robin, and so on. And one of the biggest key indicators there for the improvement of the chip is how much power this chip will consume compared to the one before, the second generation, the third, and the fifth, all the way. And that is the key part of it. The design of the data structure, especially in the Middle East, we have a lot of sun, there's a lot of solar power. So the use of renewable energy to power the data center and also the area. I can compare this one to what we have here in the United States. We have something like close to 5,000 data centers. Capital of data centers in the United States is Virginia, which is around the DOD and the Department of Defense, Pentagon, and all the NSA and in that area. So there's something close to 600, 700 data centers there. There's a lot of pushback against data centers in many of the states, including California, which is the birthplace of artificial intelligence. The reason for this one is the environmental impact. And not just the environmental impact because it's noisy, it's taking the natural resources because you need cooling for the system, and also the energy, you are straining the electrical grid. So having data center here is not as simple as thinking about it in a different place, especially in the Middle East. Middle East, you have huge areas. If they can have a data center anywhere, it's going to be very easy to establish it, power it, and maintain it, because the location is very unique in this sense. And as we progress in the hardware, the artificial intelligence actually depends on three pillars: the data, the hardware, and the algorithm. The hardware is the chips. So if we can improve the chips and have a better algorithm that will run faster, and the data is there, you collect the data, you have no control now on how the data is actually formed, then you can play with the two elements, which is let's improve the chips. Let's have a better algorithm that will have less number of code lines, so it can run, very quickly. And this is where you can save and face the energy issue.
Yeah, and I think the biggest constraint remains for not only the Middle East, to be honest, but maybe most of the world is the infrastructure components. Because
Yes.
training is possible, building the models, we have many great initiatives going on right now. Even from a data perspective and Arabization, which we're going to talk about it as well, we're doing good. So that probably remains the biggest constraint. And when it comes to the emissions and sustainability, that's still now a big topic around how do you do the carbon offset? How do you make sure that you're not harming the environment? And how do you make sure that all these data centers remain friendly, I would say, to
Mhm.
our environment?